All right, well, we're back at this Onan two-cylinder diesel generator again, and digging into our starter problems. For some reason, once we got the fuel system all fixed up and spent many hours cranking it before that, it developed a problem with the starter. So the first start, we actually got in, but then after that, it wouldn't start anymore. So I figured, like, well, first thing we'll do is take all the starter electrical connections off and clean them all up. And then I thought, well, maybe we'll just pop the starter out. There's two long screws that go through the starter motor. I guess I should have figured that that's not the way you remove the starter. But anyhow, I tried it, and that didn't work. And it turns out that step one, you remove the sheet metal blower housing and its hidden bolts, which most of them you access through holes with plugs in them. I marked the fan and unfolded the 4 bolts that hold that on. Then you take this other housing off, which is a little tricky because there's a bunch of strange little bolts that you have to take apart. And now it looks like we can get to this bolt here and that bolt there. And probably gonna take this piece off. I don't know. We'll start taking more stuff apart and see where we get. I have no idea why they made this that goddamn hard to do. This piece of fan shrouding is totally in the way because, as you can see, the bolt comes through here. So you have to get in here to get the thing loose, and there's no way to do it because the starter takes up all the room. So it's wrench, a quarter turn at a time until you can get your fingers in there and spin it. And same thing, I mean, even the bottom one here is, you can only move it a little tiny bit. It's and it's a starter. It's something you're going to have to replace. So why it takes, an hour and a half to remove it is beyond me. Well, we got the starter out. Got it all put back together. Had a look at the brushes. There was some loose stuff in there, so we tightened it up. I don't think that was really the problem. Got it all back together and hooked the 12 volts to here, and then jumped the 12 volts to the solenoid, and nothing. So this solenoid's got problems. So I guess next we'll take that apart. But the real problem that I think we were having was the solenoid. So I have the solenoid apart here. There's nothing obviously wrong, but I think we're gonna make sure things get a little looped up and a little happier. This plunger, which is this copper washer, when this pops up, it hits the contacts in here. Wherever the other one, oh yeah, there's the other one right there. So it shorts, this copper washer shorts this contact to this contact, which gives you a whole lot of 12 volts high current to this tab on the starter and makes the starter motor turn. And this was not coming out that I could hear. So as you can see, it's all nice and free now. We'll make sure this goes back together and stays all nice and free. The coil measuring 0.3 ohms right now. So I'm going to say the coil is still good. We did not smoke it. So we'll put it back together and see if we can make this thing turn. All right, we've got this solenoid all back together. Didn't really find anything wrong with it, so maybe we're going to do a little testing. I mean, it doesn't bind up or anything, so the coil's not open, so theoretically when this thing energizes, it should pop this out or drag it in or whatever. Well, yeah, I think it brings it in. So we'll check that in a minute, but I thought since we got a nice positive tab sticking out of the starter here and a nice ground all over the place, we'll try to see if the starter runs. Let's see, will she go? Oh, maybe not. That's not good. Maybe we need a better ground. No. Starter no spinny. I mean, it spins. But it doesn't do anything when you connect volts to it. Well, we'll give it a shot with the solenoid on it. Maybe we can at least check the solenoid to see if that works. Well, it's wanting to do something, but it ain't. Okay, before we jump to the conclusion of we need to buy a new starter, I decided it's possible that what we were jumpering might not have been able to provide enough current for the solenoid, because it's a pretty freaking big solenoid, or the motor. So I decided to just temporarily bolt it back in and see what happens when we hit the starter. Nothing. You can see the solenoid trying to move, but it ain't. So if we go in and force this thing, what happens? Yeah, I don't understand that either. We got to work a little bit. Yeah, I don't get it. So yeah, looks like we've been beaten by this thing again. I connected the voltmeter to a couple of points. One on the starter itself, you know, the big 12 volt terminal, and the solenoid terminals, and they're getting 10.5 to 11.5 volts while it's trying to crank, so that's plenty. It's not dropping to zero or anything, so that pretty much means, and I find this hard to believe, that we have a bad solenoid and a bad starter. So I guess we get to figure out where you buy, 30-plus-year-old generator starters at. And I wouldn't have thought it would have been very easy to blow up a generator and a starter that only has a half an hour runtime on it. But hey, I guess you learn something new every day.